Jeweler told Alain these watches are for collectors. He bought 8, one for each production head. This is the incredible true story of how one moment of horological arrogance and expertise gatekeeping at one of Switzerland's most prestigious timepiece establishments led to the most spectacular demonstration of team appreciation and cultural understanding in luxury retail history, proving that authentic appreciation for craftsmanship and artistry transcends age, appearance, and preconceived notions about who deserves access to the finest examples of human skill and creativity, and that sometimes the most powerful responses to exclusivity come from those who understand that beauty and excellence should be shared rather than hoarded. November 18, 1974. The exclusive Rue de Rhône in Geneva was beginning its transition into the sophisticated evening atmosphere that characterized Switzerland's most prestigious shopping district. The street's luxury boutiques and private ateliers were preparing to close after another day of serving an international clientele of collectors, connoisseurs, and cultural enthusiasts who appreciated the finest expressions of Swiss craftsmanship and precision. Among these distinguished establishments stood the flagship boutique of Patek Philippe, the legendary Swiss watchmaker whose timepieces had become synonymous with horological excellence and mechanical artistry. For over a century, Patek Philippe had maintained its reputation as the creator of the world's most sophisticated and technically advanced watches, attracting collectors who understood that these instruments represented the pinnacle of human achievement in precision engineering and aesthetic design. The boutique itself reflected the company's commitment to excellence and exclusivity. The interior featured display cases made from the finest materials, showcasing timepieces that ranged from elegant dress watches to complex mechanical masterpieces that demonstrated the full range of horological innovation and artistic expression. Managing the boutique's evening operations was Henri Dubois, a 52-year-old timepiece specialist whose 3 decades of experience with luxury watches had made him one of Geneva's most knowledgeable and respected authorities on horological history and technical innovation. Henri's expertise extended beyond simple sales to genuine education about the mechanical principles and artistic traditions that made Patek Philippe watches treasured by collectors worldwide. Henri's approach to customer service was informed by his deep belief that Patek Philippe watches deserved to be owned by individuals who could truly appreciate their technical sophistication and historical significance. In his experience, genuine collectors and connoisseurs typically presented themselves in ways that demonstrated both their knowledge of horological traditions and their understanding of the cultural importance of mechanical watchmaking. This meant that Henri had developed very specific expectations about the kind of clientele who belonged in a Patek Philippe boutique and who possessed the expertise and commitment necessary to properly appreciate the watches in his care. At approximately 6:15 p.m., as Henri was beginning to prepare the boutique for closing, Alain entered the establishment alone. At 39, Alain was at the height of his international success, but on this particular November evening, he was dressed in the kind of understated casual elegance that characterized his personal style when he was not attending formal events or making public appearances. Alain wore a simple but well-tailored wool coat, quality leather shoes, and the kind of subtle accessories that spoke of good taste without obvious luxury branding. His overall appearance suggested a successful professional enjoying an evening walk through Geneva's shopping district, rather than a serious collector seeking to acquire significant timepieces. Alain had come to the Patek Philippe boutique specifically because he wanted to find meaningful gifts for the 8 department heads who had been instrumental in the success of his latest film production. These were individuals whose technical expertise, creative vision, and professional dedication had made possible the artistic achievement that Alain valued above his own individual recognition. His production manager, cinematographer, editor, sound designer, costume designer, production designer, assistant director, and casting director had each contributed essential skills that transformed Alain's artistic vision into a completed work that exceeded his expectations and earned critical acclaim throughout Europe. Alain believed that their contributions deserved recognition that went beyond standard industry bonuses or generic luxury gifts. He wanted to find something that would acknowledge their craftsmanship and precision in the same way that their work had elevated his own artistic achievement. But when Henri observed Alain's entrance and initial browsing behavior, he saw not a serious collector with deep horological knowledge, but a young man whose casual presentation and apparent unfamiliarity with technical watchmaking suggested someone who might be more interested in luxury accessories than authentic appreciation for mechanical artistry.
Henri's assessment was influenced by his experience that genuine collectors typically arrived with specific knowledge about particular models, movements, or complications that demonstrated years of study and passionate engagement with horological traditions. From Henri's perspective, Alain's quiet examination of various timepieces without asking technical questions or demonstrating obvious expertise suggested someone who might be attracted to Patek Philippe's reputation and prestige without understanding the mechanical principles and artistic traditions that made these watches genuinely valuable. Acting on these assumptions, Henri approached Alain with the kind of educational tone that he typically used to guide casual browsers toward a better understanding of what distinguished serious horological collecting from simple luxury consumption. "Bonjour, monsieur," Henri said, his voice carrying the professional courtesy of an experienced salesperson combined with a subtle note of instruction. "I should mention that Patek Philippe timepieces are created specifically for serious collectors who have developed an appreciation for the technical complexity and historical significance of mechanical watchmaking." The comment was clearly intended to help Alain understand the level of knowledge and commitment that Henri believed was necessary to properly appreciate the watches in his boutique. But Henri was not content to simply provide educational context about Patek Philippe's collecting community. "These particular timepieces," Henri continued, gesturing toward the complex mechanical watches that Alain had been examining, "require an understanding of horological complications, movement architecture, and the historical evolution of Swiss craftsmanship. They are designed for connoisseurs who have spent years developing the expertise necessary to appreciate technical innovation and artistic excellence." The suggestion was unmistakable. Henri was essentially telling one of France's most successful and culturally sophisticated entertainers that he lacked the knowledge and dedication necessary to deserve access to Patek Philippe's finest timepieces. Alain's response to Henri's condescending assessment would create one of the most memorable moments in luxury retail history and demonstrate a profound understanding of what makes craftsmanship truly valuable. Rather than responding with indignation or attempting to assert his credentials as a serious collector, Alain chose an approach that would both address Henri's concerns about horological appreciation and demonstrate a deeper understanding of what makes excellence meaningful. "Monsieur Dubois," Alain replied, reading the nameplate on Henri's vest, "I appreciate your concern about ensuring that these beautiful timepieces are properly appreciated. You're absolutely right that they represent extraordinary craftsmanship and technical achievement." The response immediately demonstrated that Alain was not offended by Henri's educational approach and genuinely understood the significance of the watches he was examining. "However," Alain continued, "I think there might be different ways to appreciate and honor exceptional craftsmanship. I'm here because I want to find gifts for 8 individuals whose own technical expertise and artistic precision have been instrumental in creating something beautiful and meaningful."
He paused to examine one of the more complex timepieces, a perpetual calendar with moon phase complications that represented hundreds of hours of skilled assembly and adjustment. These people, my production manager, cinematographer, editor, and others, understand the relationship between technical skill and artistic vision in the same way that your watchmakers understand the relationship between mechanical precision and aesthetic beauty. Alain's explanation was transforming the conversation from a question of individual collecting credentials to a broader discussion about the nature of craftsmanship appreciation and the appropriate ways to honor exceptional work. I believe that the best way to appreciate extraordinary craftsmanship is not to hoard it, but to share it with others who understand what makes technical excellence and artistic vision truly valuable. The comment revealed that Alain's interest in the Patek Philippe timepieces was not motivated by personal collecting ambition, but by a desire to recognize and celebrate the kind of professional excellence that he experienced every day in his work with master craftsmen in the film industry. Henri was beginning to realize that his initial assessment of Alain had been both inaccurate and inappropriate. The young man examining his watches was demonstrating exactly the kind of sophisticated understanding of craftsmanship and artistic value that Henri had claimed was necessary for serious collecting. But Alain had one more observation that would completely transform Henri's understanding of what had occurred during their conversation. "I've been thinking about getting one of these timepieces for my cinematographer because he spent 6 months perfecting the lighting and visual composition that made our latest film possible. The precision and patience required for his work reminds me of the precision and patience that must be required to create and assemble these mechanical movements." He looked directly at Henri with an expression of genuine curiosity and respect.
Handed him a box. The GMT Master, $3,400. For every light you've set perfectly, for every shot you've made look beautiful, for being a professional. One by one, Dean called each of the 12 crew members, handed each one a Rolex, said something specific about their work, their contribution, made sure they knew this wasn't charity, this was recognition, this was earned. Marcus stepped forward, lighting technician, 42 years old, had been making Dean look good on camera for 5 years, every light perfectly placed, every shadow intentionally created. Dean handed him a GMT Master, $3,400. For every light you've set perfectly, for every shot you've made look beautiful, for understanding that lighting isn't just technical, it's art. You're a professional, Marcus. Marcus's hands shook as he opened the box. He'd never owned anything worth more than his car. Now he was holding a watch that cost more than 3 months of rent. Carlos Mendoza, sound engineer, 50 years old, Mexican immigrant, worked his way up from boom operator to head sound tech, could identify audio problems others couldn't even hear. Dean gave him a day date, $3,600. For every word you've made sure the audience could hear clearly, for every background noise you've eliminated, for making my voice sound better than it actually is. You're a professional, Carlos. Carlos tried to refuse. "Mr. Martin, this is too much. I was just doing my job." "Exactly," Dean said. "You were doing your job perfectly every single day. That deserves to be recognized." Robert Chen, 55 years old, Dean's driver for 7 years, never late, never missed a day. Drove Dean safely through LA traffic thousands of times without incident. The date Dean handed him was $3,300. For every trip where you got me there safely and on time. For the conversations we've had in that car. For being more than just a driver, being a friend. You're a professional, Robert. Robert couldn't speak, just bowed his head and cried. Frank Morrison, set designer, 38 years old, built some of the most impressive television sets in the business, could create anything from a simple living room to an elaborate nightclub on budget and on schedule. Dean gave him an Oyster Perpetual,
$3,100. For every set you've designed that made my shows look bigger than our budget. For your creativity and precision. You're a professional, Frank. Maria Gonzalez, makeup artist, 48 years old, could make Dean look good at 5 a.m. after 3 hours of sleep, could hide exhaustion, age, stress, made magic with brushes and powders. Dean handed her a Lady Date just $3,200. For making me look like I slept 8 hours when we both know I didn't, for your artistry, for making everyone who sits in your chair feel beautiful. You're a professional, Maria. Maria kissed Dean on the cheek, whispered gracias over and over. Giuseppe Antonelli, camera operator, 60 years old, Italian immigrant like Dean's family, had been operating cameras since the early days of television, could frame a shot perfectly every time. The Submariner Dean gave him was $3,200. For every shot you framed perfectly, for understanding composition like a painter, for 40 years of making television look like art. You're a professional, Giuseppe. Giuseppe saluted, old school, the way he'd learned in Italy. 6 more crew members, 6 more watches, 6 more moments of recognition. James, the gaffer, Patricia, the costume designer, Anthony, the key grip alongside Tommy, David, the production assistant, Linda, the script supervisor, Michael, the stunt coordinator. Each name called, each box handed over, each person told specifically why they mattered, why their work was valuable, why they deserved the finest. By the end, all 12 crew members were holding Rolex watches worth more than they made in 6 months. Some were crying, all were speechless. Dean turned to the jeweler. You said these watches weren't for people like them. You were wrong. These watches were made by craftsmen, people who work with their hands, people who take pride in precision and quality, just like my crew. He gestured to Tommy, Marcus, Robert, all of them. These people work harder than most people you'll ever meet. They build sets in 100-degree heat. They work 16-hour days. They solve impossible problems under impossible.
The cinematographer who received the precision timing watch began studying horological mechanisms as a way to better understand the relationship between technical precision and artistic vision, eventually becoming a knowledgeable collector himself and establishing connections between film industry craftsmanship and Swiss mechanical traditions. Several of the other department heads also developed interests in watch collecting that grew from their appreciation for the technical complexity and artistic beauty that their Patek Philippe timepieces represented, creating ongoing relationships with Swiss workshops and expanding their understanding of how different forms of craftsmanship could inspire and inform each other. The story also influenced how luxury brands throughout Switzerland approached customer education and cultural outreach, with many companies beginning to recognize that appreciation for Swiss craftsmanship extended far beyond traditional collecting communities and could be found among professionals whose work required similar dedication to technical excellence and artistic achievement. Patek Philippe itself began developing programs that connected their horological expertise with other forms of precision craftsmanship, creating collaborations with film industry professionals, musicians, architects, and other artists whose work required the same kind of technical skill and aesthetic sensitivity that characterized Swiss watchmaking. The Geneva 8 also became a reference point for discussions about leadership and team recognition in creative industries, demonstrating how successful individuals could use their appreciation for exceptional craftsmanship as a way to acknowledge and celebrate the contributions of colleagues whose technical expertise made collaborative artistic achievement possible. For the luxury retail industry more broadly, the incident provided a powerful example of how genuine customer education and service could create meaningful connections between technical excellence and personal values, transforming commercial transactions into opportunities for cultural appreciation and professional recognition. Most importantly, the story demonstrated how authentic understanding of craftsmanship could transcend traditional boundaries between different professional communities, creating lasting connections based on shared appreciation for technical precision, artistic vision, and the collaborative spirit that makes exceptional work possible.